Hey everybody, how's it going? Well, it's the weekend, and I'm actually recording this from Monday. Again, we are into our next week, and we're actually getting pretty close to actually halfway through the semester. How about that? And basically, we are near I would say the halfway mark, which also means that basically the concentration more on writing. We're still in that phase. Then we're moving to more of a concentration on the reporting end of things. And just want to thank everybody really who participated in the idea making. And we had three people who got extra credit. I really don't mean to go on about this, but I really need better class participation in this class. Now, I people say to me, "How do you get class participation in asynchronous?" Well, we're seeing it. Okay, we're seeing how it's done, and disappointed by the turnout. 13 out of 21 people contributed to the ideas. And I mean, this again, I know I made a special videotape on this, but this is not a class that you can just kind of pile up the videos at halfway through the semester and do a midterm exam. And I mean, that's my media ethics class. You could do that in my media ethics class. That's fine. This class, you got to do it week by week. And I had people who really fought to get into this class. I mean, if you don't want to be interested in doing this class or whatever, or participating, then maybe you should do something else. I gotta be honest. But I mean, I'm looking at this right here, and I'm not gonna put any names next to it, but I mean, X, 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 X. These are people who didn't contribute the ideas. I mean, it was there. I had notes on it. I wonder, like, if I'm sending too many notes sometimes. But apparently, it's not getting through. I had somebody write to me like 3 days after the profile rewrite was due, saying I didn't know, or this thing with like not seeing the remarks on the paper. I mean, I gotta be honest with you. I've been doing remarks. I've been doing the track changes for 10 years, at least. I used to handwrite, um, and this is obviously before online classes, and I've never had a problem until I guess like four students in this class, I guess, said that they did. So I did provide a little video in the note that I sent out. Um, I sent out an announcement basically announcing the um, the new assignment, which is going to be on the students' reaction to the online classes. So with that announcement, sent a little video. And we can just show it right here. I think it's only a few seconds, right? Um, so there we go. We go up there to the little track changes, the part that says, you know, review. We make sure that says on screen. All right. And then you should be able to see it. And if you can't, I mean, we're pretty deep into the semester right now. You really should be asking questions about it. Why am I not seeing remarks on my paper? I mean, that's the inquisitive reporter. Okay. So I mean, I'm gonna stop reminding people about this. I mean, if you're not gonna participate, you're not gonna participate, but you're not gonna get an A in this class if you don't participate. It's just not, or maybe even a B plus. I don't know. Maybe we even get a B. I don't know. So anyway, congratulations to Kevin. I'm sorry, Ulysses and Jeff for suggesting this idea, and that is, how do you feel about the online classes offered at Rutgers? You have another week to do this as of this video being posted. The assignment is due on February 20th. There's a new assignment entry on it, and there will be a rewrite on it. Okay, and please don't forget there's also a rewrite on the worksheets assignment that's also due Monday. Okay, so please do that. There were a lot of good grades on that, and a lot of people did well on that. So I want to make sure that we do that. Okay, so let's actually go to the actual assignment entry. That was just the announcement. This is the assignment entry. Provides instructions on how to do it. Okay. I mean, you should actually maybe even set alerts to your phone. You can get that when your assignments are posted, but please do a story that answers this question. And congratulations again to Ken Loosleys and Jeff for getting this. I chose this story because I felt it was topical. I felt that it was like something that's post-COVID, what are we doing now? The state of the university. We've seen the university kind of move in this direction of really piling on the online classes. And I've heard like back and forth on that. I've even been accused of being lazy because I teach online classes. And I tell people that's not my choice. They give me the online classes to teach. This is what they do. And I actually do teach an in-person class. Um, this is a story I could see having like different opinions on. There's people who like it, people who don't, people who see the good and bad and indifferent in it. This is the kind of story like I was showing you before, the story, um, the video story about the reaction um, to the Rutgers campus death from 30 plus years ago, basically getting the state of mind of the campus by going around to the students and getting their opinions. And that's a story. This is the kind of story like if let's say like they did like a main story, okay, on online classes and whether there'll be more. Maybe they would do a sidebar, okay, a side story or a follow-up story, gauging the students' reaction to these. Do they work? And it's not a survey you're doing here. This is actually just basically getting consensus opinion and writing a story about how students feel. It's not going to get everybody's opinions of all 40,000 students here at Rutgers University. But what it's going to do is going to provide some sort of a glimpse, some sort of a window into how students feel. I mean, you may just interview all students who may like them, and that's it. You may interview students who feel both ways. You may interview students who just hate them entirely. Just whatever your group is, and I'm asking you to interview 3 to 5 students. Really, you should interview 5, okay? Because you want to think about this like it's like a movie. Like you want to leave stuff on the cutting room floor. You want to have almost too much, so you have stuff to choose from, to select from. So I would really strongly suggest that you go for 5, okay? And then you pick 3 from those and use those 3, and then 3 will be good because if you have like basically like different opinions, it'll break the tie. Let's say like one person feels one way, another person feels another way, then the third person may break the tie, and then what you have essentially is a mixed opinion story or something. So how should you theme this basically? To me, this is the best one idea, best ideas. Also, internet for international students, and this is important. There's actually, before I get into everything, there's actually a discussion point that I'm posting. I'm not posting it. You're not going to see it posted yet. It'll be posted on Monday when I post this video. But how do Rutgers students feel about online classes? Okay. I'm just asking some questions to get things going. Okay. And I really didn't mean to post this yet. Um, are they convenient? Are they not doing the job? Actually, I did post it. I'm sorry. Forget what I just said. Actually, this has been posted. Okay. That's right, because I actually posted the assignment already. So I posted this is posted, the discussion point. And thank you, Janice, for posting already a response. Online classes have been convenient and offer flexibility in my schedules. I think they do the job a bit less than attending regular classes since the element of being face-to-face is classrooms on. She says she struggles a bit staying motivated to learn. Now, what I'm asking for here is like basically just some questions to throw out there, like does asynchronous work? Please provide your opinion, provide anecdotes. And I'll get into that basically. We haven't really delved so much into anecdotes and stories so much. We've talked about them, but that's where you get the real ground level reporting, a personal experience that somebody has with an issue and how they're impacted by it. And we can see it here with Janice. She says here she struggles a bit with staying motivated to learn, even more so with asynchronous. So she has kind of a mixed opinion, but there's a bigger challenge with staying on top of tasks and making sure I am being responsible, completing work on time. So she has a little bit of a mixed opinion there, but it's more in favor of. So basically, this is her personal experience. I want to see like how people are feeling like when they're sitting at their desk and they're saying to themselves, "Am I really getting like a lot out of this? Am I being engaged?" Or maybe like if they're like sitting in an in-person class and they feel, or maybe they're rushing to school. You would talk about that in an anecdote. It's a little slice of life. Okay. Janice Yoon, I'm not saying she's not saying this, but Janice Yoon got tired of having to leave her dorm room and like rush to class and blah blah blah, like and getting ready and all that stuff. That's like that's a slice of life anecdote that should be in this story, that should be scattered through this story. Okay. And I'll show you how that can be done. Okay. Um, Real life examples, whether they work or don't work. Okay. Okay. So how can that be done? What I did was in the assignment itself, I actually provided an example of a story, not on this topic, but I've done this kind of story before, obviously, where I asked everybody to provide ideas for an assignment, and they come up with a topic, and I've picked somebody, and they get extra credit for it. So in a similar way, we're doing it, and what I have here is an example. This is a story from a previous semester. I'll show you in a minute. But what they did was they just did the same thing. They used a discussion point. You don't have to use the stuff from the discussion point, but you use the discussion point with the name to as sources for your story, students for your story. Please do, okay? And please participate in discussion point because that's also class participation, okay? You could also interview people outside of that. That's fine, just as long as they're Rutgers students, okay? 500 words, okay? Theme the story around a central prevailing consensus opinion. I mean, I'm guessing it's probably gonna be mixed. People will have real mixed opinions about this, okay? I'm not gonna try to put words in your mouth, the words in the mouth of your sources, but I mean, I'm hearing both ends of every end of the spectrum on this. Even people who like them kind of see the downside of it, okay? So that's what it could be. It could be Rutgers students say they have, let's say you get like all students, and that's fine, you just write that, who say they love it, okay? And to be honest with you, you're on an online class, you might just get that. So, especially from the discussion points. It says Rutgers students say they're feeling what? Their consensus opinion about online class Rutgers University. That could essentially be your lead. Or perhaps their consensus opinion is mixed. Okay. So you go with that. Okay. Before I get into that example of a story, let me show you the process you really should follow here. And again, I hope everybody sees this because I'm not seeing a lot of participation in this class from everybody. I mean, I'm seeing most people participating. Thank you for that. Okay. So you want to have a lead, okay? All right, but what we've done in the past, what we did for the profile story is we essentially had a series of transitions, okay? It would be about Bob Smith. Oops. Bob Smith is a fighter, okay? And a boxer, whatever. Okay. And then the transition would be something like, okay, well, give me one example of why that's unique and what that's about. Okay. And then you would add one detail, and then you have another transition. Okay. Another example or whatever, and kind of moving from transition to point to point, the fact that talks about why he's a fighter and how he balances that with schoolwork and that sort of thing. And maybe you have an anecdote in here that's like a slice of life, and then that's where you get the real ground level reporting a personal experience. Just last month, actually had somebody actually wrote this kind of story. Smith was in a match and he had to finish his schoolwork. It's where it gets like even deeper. Okay. A story within a story of personal experience, sport beforehand. Okay. Okay. So basically that story was essentially like a series of transitions, maybe occasional anecdote. But the story right now is actually something that's actually a more common story of this ilk, where basically you try to get multiple opinions for a story. So it's a more balanced story, a more objective, okay, story. Okay. And that will lead to maybe this pattern, this formula, where essentially you start out with a lead, and there'll be maybe something along the lines of Rutgers students have. I mean, maybe you can't say a number of Rutgers students because not every Rutgers student, but Rutgers students have mixed opinions. I don't know why it's taking extra space about online classes. And then the formula typically followed with this is that you then break it down into smaller parts, much like you did with the profile story, with a transition, okay? And basically so what, who, what, where, why, when about this overall theme, okay? My first question will be, why do they feel that way? Okay. So then you kind of go into this kind of pattern. You say some students, and what was maybe I asked this my online classes, what is the reason why they might have mixed opinions? What is one reason, since we're gonna show both pro and con here, okay, in this particular example, why do they feel this way? Well, some students say they like online and because one of the first things they said was the convenience. Convenience. Okay. So basically it takes the larger theme and you draw out a smaller sub theme out of that, how some students may feel. And then the formula to go into is then to go to an anecdote. Okay, Bob Smith, or the other example, we actually had a student who actually provided an example. Okay. But let's say Bob Smith says he likes the fact that he can just sit in his bed, like I'm doing right now, and listen to the tapes. He can even order DoorDash. Smaller details. It goes to this. It goes from macro to micro. The larger theme right here, the sub theme right here, and the anecdote right here. The ground level scene view of how this story is impacting people. Okay. And then this is where you maybe would go in for a quote, a quippy, good emotional quote showing emotion. Okay. Like it's easier to eat and learn this way. Okay. A colorful way of saying, of drawing out the theme of the story. And then, I mean, you could actually go into even another anecdote from somebody who believes that like this is a convenient way of doing it. John Doe said he likes the fact that he doesn't have to get up early and blah blah blah. Okay. Or you could just move into like another transition. And maybe you could have another transition showing like basically another example why a group of students feel that they like doing this. Or maybe you use this transition to, since it's a mixed opinion story, saying other students say they don't like the online classes. And this is the one I heard a lot, was because they're not engaged enough. Okay. And then maybe you go to another anecdote here. John Doe is running behind in his classes and getting lower grades because he's not engaged. Some more detailed ground level reporting. One I heard a lot was this, and then maybe a quote basically saying like, I'm not doing well or something. Here's another anecdote. This is the one I heard a lot from people. Regarding they're not engaged enough. Well, actually, this actually would work as a transition. Okay. I'm sorry, I meant to say a transition. Other students say in-person classes make them more disciplined. And then maybe an anecdote. Freddie Mercury says he's falling behind in Tom Davis's class because he has not engaged in the discussions, nor has he turned in work on time. Okay. Boy, does that sound familiar? Sorry, don't mean to dig at people. But that would be like a personal anecdote, personal experience coming from a transition. Others feel like they're disciplined enough. I'm seeing that. If that's something you're looking at and you're hearing from people, I'm seeing that because it was interesting because last semester I felt like my online class was better disciplined than my in-person class. And I don't know why that is, but this semester I have to tell you, it's been the opposite. My in-person class has been better disciplined, been getting higher grades. And you've been doing the same assignment because guess what? I gave this I mean, it wasn't because of this, but I just felt like this was the best idea in that class too. In the in-person class, the online class was also the story winner. Okay, and the people who chose that also got extra credit. So, all right. So basically, the pattern to follow, the general pattern to follow would be like lead, transition, anecdote, and like I said, you can vary on that a little bit. You can have another anecdote, but maybe another quote, and then rinse, repeat, transition, anecdote, and like I said, you can have another anecdote and a quote. Okay. The storytelling comes from here. The paraphrasing comes here in the lead, and here the transition, and here in the anecdote. Okay. And then you have a direct quote between the quotation marks. Okay. So that's how that story should be followed. Okay. And just going to a previous semester's example. Okay. This was, I think, 2 semesters ago when they lifted the COVID mask mandate, or maybe no, actually it was last semester. Rutgers University students have expressed mixed feelings regarding the decision. Yeah, she went straight for the board, basically taking my word literally, which is fine. Since Rutgers is one of the last schools to lift the mask mandate, you can't really say most, but whatever. Many students expressed relief and happiness regarding this decision. So basically, you have the overall story right here, and then your first transition right here, basically saying that most students felt happy about it. Okay. We had mixed opinions, but most felt happy. And here's Sapir saying that she is happy as no longer needed. She said that vaccinations are necessary. It was time the mandate to be lifted, and been waiting for this moment for a while. So personal experience that this person has been waiting hungrily for this to change. And she expressing no anxiety or stress, real ground level reporting here. Another anecdote: entering a classroom without a mask, returning to pre-COVID circumstances is something she is excited about. And then we got a quote: I am very happy that we no longer need masks. I am not stressed about this decision. And there's even another anecdote: continued her social life as normal, seeing friends unmasked. That's ground level anecdotal reporting. Okay. And then we have another anecdote right here. So you don't necessarily have to follow that rinse repeat pattern of follow. You got a couple of anecdotes under one transition. Here's another transition. Other students worry about the consequences of the decision of their academic life. So it's a mixed opinion story. So now we're going in another direction. Struggled to express relief regarding not having to wear a mask and stated, since masks were not required, such as the mandate wasn't fully effective. So she has a problem with it not being fully effective. Okay. So there you have it right there. There is an example. And what I'll try to do is I will try to provide a good example. If I see one come up down the pike, somebody who did the story right, okay, which I usually do. Somebody will provide the story. Maybe they already did, because sometimes some of you do that, which is great. You don't have to rush this assignment, but I also provide the little formula right down here on the thing. Here's the example right here. It's linked. Okay. I have some international students in this class, so the discussion point really helps those who are international students, I would say. So, okay. All right. So, chapters 3 and 4 was the chapters I asked you guys to read this past week. So, it somewhat applies to the things we've done already, but for this assignment too. Basically the whole idea, this goes into the more specific writing style of things. And it basically repeats some of the things I've already said, like the importance of simplifying words. I think I haven't really had an issue with that in this class. But it provides a good example, basically showing the comparison between like why we do what we do. Okay. This shows the comparison between, here's your fat long graphs, okay, where basically like people look at that and go, oh my god, or maybe they say like oh my god, it's a fiction story, I don't really have the time to read that right now. An academic article they don't want to read unless really forced to, but the news story they might want to read to be engaged. Okay, so you can see there's like spaces in between the graphs. A third robbery this month at the Starlight Apartments on Washington Street has tenants worried about their safety and building security. Space, breathe, next. 2 robbers with nylon stocking face masks stole a cell phone, a computer, DVDs, and possibly other items at 11 p.m. It's never happened before. It's frightening. See the emotional quote right there? That's nice, right? But see, the difference between what we do here and what fiction is this, okay? And we don't want you to be writing like this because that takes longer and it's not as convenient or as accessible to the reader. We're writing for everyday person, or sorry, um, the person, if you could just give me 1 second here. Sorry, I got interrupted by an important matter. Anyway, so let me go back to sharing the screen. So anyway, this is basically, you have the news story, the fiction, while his mind was whirling as he waited for the police to arrive. So you're not getting really the news right away. I mean, it's good writing, and it's something that, but it's something that, again, the difference is that you would read this if you have time. The news stories are supposed to be about people, reaching people on every level and giving them time to read it, and getting the news as quickly as to them as possible. He was nervous and panicky as he wondered what he could tell them about the robbery. Was it a phone, computer, and 4 DVDs that were stolen, or was it 5? I mean, great if I want to be engaged late at night or something like that, but if I'm trying to get my news quick on my phone, no thanks. Academic article. Previous literature has shown that occupants whose homes are vandalized feel a disruptive sense of blah, blah, blah. See, you hate reading that crap, right? You don't read that. Even this textbook is more engaging than that crap. So, you really just want to like keep your language as simple as possible. The book offers like some tips on how to do that. Again, I'm not a big book guy, so I'm actually just kind of scanning quickly through here. Don't do that, quiz. So anyway, or unless you want. But just some other important points. I mean, look, you know, we write stories about people who are racist. We write about racist incidents. We write about stories of, but one thing we want to do is, there, as far as I'm concerned, there is no two sides on race. Okay, you're either right or wrong, if that's you want to consider that two sides. But there's only one thing, and that's you're right. But as you know, I mean, things. I mean, you're younger than I am, and probably reading this, I'm sure. But there's been a lot of things I believe have been a long time coming, as far as like, um, trying to understand the experiences of people who have culture, who come from different cultures than maybe the one you grew up with, and that sort of thing. And that's been a long time coming, because 20 years ago, I remember we were having meetings with, when I was working at the Allentown Morning Call, and people were just couldn't understand why it was such a big deal that we were telling people that it's not a good idea to like concentrate on one group of people and their arrests all the time. Okay, maybe we should just, look at other things that maybe certain cultures, certain people do, okay, other than, you know the bad things they do. Okay, we shouldn't just go for the crazy headlines and that sort of thing all the time. We should go the neighborhoods. We should learn what people are doing and the good things they're doing. Okay, and I think finally, like in the last, like, I don't know, 5, 6, 7 years, we're starting to see a change in that. We're especially seeing that in police matters. Obviously, I mean, the police just really gave their side of the story in the past. Now, thank God, we have, like, I don't mean to like praise Apple or like that, but we have iPhones and things like that. Where we're starting to see things happen that the police aren't necessarily reporting. As I've actually as I've talked before, the press release on the Alma robbery case first basically said that, like, oh, there's really nothing to see here. But then we found out later that there was actually apparently some racist motivation. Not apparently, there was people convicted over it. Sexism. I mean, like, I still hear cranky Gen Xers and boomers basically saying things like, "Oh my God," and aging millennials basically saying things like, "Oh my God," like, why do I use pronouns? Blah blah blah. Well, you know what? It's important now. Okay, it's important. It should have been important then. He, she, they, whatever. Okay, we need to basically understand that people have are want to be presented in different in a way they should be allowed. I believe. Okay, so you should be really cautious of people's understandings, feelings, emotions about how they want to be represented. Um, and sexism plays a lot into that. Um, you know, how many times you see on TV still commercials to this day where, like, whenever they talk about like cleaning a house, they always have a mother or something like that. It kills me to this day that they won't show like a man on an apron in a commercial during the day. I mean, why is that so hard to do? I don't get it. So you want to be like conscious of people's feelings and that sort of thing. They provide examples of like people who the cancel culture, they call it ridiculous. shut up, about the cancel culture. You deserve to be kicked off for like, being a racist or a sexist or whatever. Okay, sorry. Um, Ageism. Obviously, like I'm 56 almost. A 60-year-old may be considered a youngster when compared to a centenarian. Hey, thanks a lot. But you just want to be like, you just want to be conscious because people look at me, they see the white hair and they say like, old man. You know, always you want to like try to like put yourself in other people's shoes and be sensitive and be factual to what is being reported. Okay, one of the things I learned from my experiences like writing about mental health is that when you put like a certain characteristic in front of somebody's name, like the mentally ill person, that basically almost creates like an encapsulation of like that person, almost like puts them in a box and gives them a label. What you want to do is you want to see something like a person with mental illness, so it shows that it's not their whole being. And they actually show that right here. A person who is blind is acceptable than a blind person. Okay. Um, so you want to obviously be conscious of that. Okay. And please do not do these review exercises. Um, okay, so let's go to chapter 4. Okay. And after this, you'll be reading chapters 5 and 6, I believe. So just follow your assignment list. Okay. Obviously you want to be like conscious that like maybe your words don't come out the wrong way. The patient refused an autopsy. Well, that sounds ridiculous, right? Not gonna patient refuse an autopsy. Getting to but you know what they meant, maybe they meant they were talking about somebody else, or maybe they were actually dying and they didn't want to have an autopsy afterward. Okay. Getting into the bathtub, the phone rang. Well, oh my God, I got electrocuted. That sort of thing. So you want to be like kind of conscious of how the audience views your writing, and that's why it's actually a good idea to maybe like have other people do read your stories before you submit them. It's actually good to get people who are not actually involved in journalism to do that. I used to have my wife read my stories, because she's not involved in journalism at all, and but she's the kind of person who basically would look at it and say like, what the hell does that mean, um maybe get a roommate or something like that if you don't quite get what you're if I don't get quite what you're doing, and I try to put myself in those shoes. There's a thing there's a term in journalism called inside baseball, where maybe you know a little bit too much about like a certain topic and you present it as though you're in deep, you're inside. I had a student in my other class who was trying, like beating me on the head and saying that this game called, I think it's Legends or something like that, that he thought it was important to write about the losing streak as his theme of his story. And I thought it was important to write about this student and the fact that they play the Legends game all the time. Because when you think about it, look at it this way. The person who's actually really knows something about the Legends game would be interested in the losing streak because they would know what that's all about. Okay. And why that's maybe a hardship for them. But to the outside, they call it 10,000 feet up. The person looking from 10,000 feet up would want to say a person that has nothing. Most people don't know about this game or anything about it. So they just want to know if the person's interested in the game and doing their schoolwork. That's the more average, common, everyday thing that somebody would want to know about. Okay. Um, all right. I made a big deal. This is actually a big deal in like the independent dependent clauses. You really want to like try to be really careful with the reporting, because I saw that a lot in the worksheets assignments, where people would do something like along the lines of this. Um, and look, I'm going to give something away because you guys have to do a rewrite on the worksheets assignment. All right, but that's due today, I mean Monday. Okay, so I saw a lot of this. Drawing a large gathering of people, 150 people were, or in a large gathering of people, were arrested. That's really like a slow way of getting into the story. And by the way, I'm going to give away a big hint here. This is what should have been the front of the story. It means that the numbers at the beginning of the sentence, so you have to actually spell that number out. That's Associated Press style. But that is what people should get right into is 100, oops, 150 people were arrested. That's the newest, biggest thing in that lead. Okay, that should be at the front of the story. Or, another thing I saw a lot was this yesterday. There's no need to do that. You want to get right into the story. Yesterday actually goes right here. Okay, it's not the most important. It's actually not the first thing in a news story. Is not. It's not just like the element or the angle of the story. It's the most important thing in a news story. It's actually even the words. Okay, that's not the most important word in that sentence. Is yesterday. Okay, most important word is 150 people were busted. Okay, that's a big thing. I mean, we've seen a lot of these rallies where like 2,500 people show up, blah blah blah. But how many people actually get arrested at these rallies? We've seen it happen, but maybe one, two, maybe people get arrested. But 150, that's a lot. Okay, so that's like the most interesting thing in that story. I saw this a lot with this the robbery, the food robbery thing too. And boy, if you're reading this, this is one thing I'm going to check on people because I'm actually giving answers away here, and you should be getting this. And this is how I'm going to know whether people are going to be like actually watching this video or not. Okay, because I'm seeing like some videos where I only see like 10 people reading it after 2 weeks. Okay, you can't like pile up these videos and watch them halfway through the semester. You just can't. Okay, um, I saw this a lot. Uh at a house in the city, a person, a delivery driver, was robbed of his food. And that was the most interesting, unique thing about that thing, because how many times do people actually rob the food? Ew, they rob for money, not the food. But why not get right into this story? Why take time? I'm just gonna basically even like words matter because it takes time away from the reader's time or reader's day. And even if it's like and it slows things down and it basically doesn't give like a fast action way of getting into the story. Like active and passive voice is the same way. Active voice, the batter hit the ball. Passive voice, the ball was hit the batter. The ball was hit by the batter. That's a slow, lazy way of entering into a story or describing a story. You want to get right in there. Um, the person was accused of murder. That's actually like actually an actual was accused. It was actually a verb. The person murdered somebody. Okay, that sort of thing. Run on sentence. I've talked to you about that. You really, I mean, like going into like a two cause situation is really, and it goes into. I talk to people about it, like don't sound like Shakespeare. Basically like two causes is really all you need in one sentence. Okay, you don't really need dangling modifiers, things like that, parallelism. You can read all about that, but you don't really need to go like beyond that. I see people writing like three causes, four causes. No, 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 that's a long way of writing, and then it makes the reader read longer. And avoid cliches. I've seen a few. That's basically a phrase that have been copied over and over again. Just you just basically like write things straight and factual as they are. You don't have to be. I saw people trying to, you know, substance over style. They instead of like having real substance about when they were writing about somebody's life, they would basically write like things along the lines of like they would repeat the word like this has really impacted their life. This has really impacted their life. This has really impacted their life. Well, don't keep telling me that. Show me how it's impacted their life. Um, that's why I keep saying things like show, don't tell. Show me evidence. If you're writing about somebody who's actually like, is trying to keep like I saw stories like where they basically they were like soccer players at one time and they're trying to keep active in that sport even though they're not doing it even though they're not active as they were in high school or something like that. But they kept saying things like it's still really a big part of their life. It's still really a big part of their life, but they weren't showing me how. Well, okay, were they in a club? Are they in are they playing pickup games? What are they doing? The real life ground level examples, okay? That's what I want to see in these stories, okay? All right. And that's that with that. Okay. So we got the rewrite of the worksheets is due. I mean, if you only like have to rewrite a couple of leads, that's fine. I mean, you don't have to rewrite everything, okay? I pointed out to some people, okay? But some people will have to do them all over again, so that's fine. So you have to do that then. Make sure you submit to the rewrite entry for the worksheets, okay? It's a separate entry, okay? And then, of course, in a week we have this other story due. Getting You should really get 5 students, but you can use 3 of the 5 in your story. But get students to talk about how they feel about these online classes, okay? And focus it around one consensus opinion. All right, everybody, thanks very much, and I will be talking, and let me know if you have any questions.